Right. Hello, everyone, for another virtual shadowing webinar at WebCeph X. Today, we are joined by Dr. Taylor Hales, a cosmetic dentist based in California. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Hales, and whenever you're ready, the floor is all yours. Right. Hello, everyone, for another virtual shadowing webinar at WebCeph X. Today, we are joined by Dr.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for coming today. Super excited to be speaking to all of you. Feel like it wasn't that long ago that I was in your shoes and looking to figure out what I wanted to do. And so as I go through this kind of journey that I've been on, hopefully it will help give you some ideas and help you out. So a little bit about me. My name is Dr. Tyler Hales. So those are my Instagram feeds. So Dr. Tyler Hales is my personal account, and then Hales Parker Dentistry is our business account. So a little bit about me. This is my family. So I actually met my wife in undergrad. We had a class anatomy together, and she actually kind of came up to me, started talking to me, and we became study buddies. So it was the only class that she actually got a B in. So I feel bad for that. I think I was a little distraction for her. But after that, we had a kind of great life. She majored in speech therapy. So she is a speech pathologist and really helped me get through dental school. So my kids, I've got 3 kids with another one on the way. For those that are interested in, family life, I'll tell you a little bit about what happened to me in dental school. So my wife was working full time, and it was really my second year. We got pregnant with my oldest, which was planned. And so we were excited. What we didn't plan was the day before I was supposed to take part 1 boards, my daughter came. And so that was a little bit stressful for me, not knowing, was I going to study? Was I just going to worry about the baby? And that was a journey in itself. When it came to my second child, now I was in 4th year, and it was actually during a practical exam. And my wife gave me a call kind of in the morning and was like, hey, I'm starting to have contractions. She was only 35 weeks pregnant. So I was like, oh, this has happened before. She goes into the hospital and they stop the contractions, and then she goes home. So I'm in the middle of my exam, and she calls me and she says, hey, we're going to have this baby today. And so I started freaking out, but I couldn't just leave my exam. I had to finish. So I literally rushed through my exam, finished doing the filling that I had to do, got graded on it, and then went in LA traffic as fast as I could, which wasn't very fast, and literally walked in right as my wife started pushing and having the baby. So luckily I made it for my second daughter's birth. But again, fun times in dental school. So if you're thinking about having kids in dental school, know that it's never very planned. And then my 4th one, my wife is due in November. So we're excited. So we've definitely got a nice little team here, and it's growing. So it's been good. So a little bit about me. I was born in Los Angeles, California, and then I grew up here in Orange County. Reason why I kind of talk a little bit about that is I wanted everyone to know that, hey, we all grow up in different ways of life, right? But that doesn't always define really who we are or what our potential is. Throughout this presentation, I want you to really focus on what it is that you can do to become great, not so much what others are doing to hold you back. There's so much potential that everyone has inside. It's about taking that. So with my family, I grew up in a very competitive family. I have an older sister and a younger sister and a younger brother. So 2 sisters, 1 brother. We all played sports. We all played piano. My parents were very supportive. And with that, they always had high expectations for us. One thing about me is my mom would call me the B+ boy. And the reason is I always got B+, and I would never do the extra effort I needed to really get that A. And so with that, she always saw that, hey, I was kind of, in a way, a lazy kid because I wouldn't put the effort in to get that A. And, that really stuck with me for a long time because, I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to achieve certain things because of this B+ boy. Growing up, my dad and my grandpa were both anesthesiologists. They both went to USC for med school. So with me, what I wanted to do was follow in their footsteps. I thought that that's what I needed to be third generation USC med student, graduating as an anesthesiologist. That was what I wanted to do from the time I was a little kid. And so I wanted my, family, my dad and grandpa to be very proud of me and be able to do that. And that really was my goal until I went to college. In college, I started doing research, started preparing to take the MCAT. So I really was on this path to really get there that I wanted to. And I realized that, I had been so focused on just seeing what my parents have done, what my grandpa had done, and how successful they were, that I hadn't really thought about what is it that is my passion? What is it that I really want to do? And that's when I really had to take a step back and evaluate, because I haven't ever thought about other options, right? This was only the option that I thought about my whole life. And so what I did was I actually took a class in college that was Intro to Medical Professions. And what I did was they had different medical professionals come in and speak to us about what they do in their career. And one day this dentist came in and spoke to us and talked to me about, what he does, how he's got these amazing patients, how he's built these relationships with them. And sometimes they're with them for like 20, 30 years, and how he really loves what he does. And so what I decided was I'm going to write a whole research article on dentistry, right? I had never had any family in dentistry that I thought of. And so this again was a new thing for me. Was this something that was possible for me? It was the unknown, right? I didn't know what I needed to do to get into dental school. I didn't even know, where dental schools were. And so with that research article, it got me excited as I started to see kind of the potential. And really, like I said, I loved working with my hands. I loved working with people. I wanted relationships. I wanted a long-term goal. I wanted a long-term career that I could be in one place, that I wasn't having to, work lates and things like that. My dad and my grandpa worked really, really hard. They worked a lot. And I appreciate that. I saw that hard work in them, and that's what pushes me to work hard. But I wanted to do it, in a different way. And the nice thing was that my dad and my grandpa were both very supportive. They never forced or said, hey, you need to go into medicine. You need to do this. They encouraged me to follow what was passionate about me. And that's what everyone, I think, should do, depending on what it is, if you have family in dentistry or if you don't, right? There's potential for everyone. So I went to BYU, Brigham Young University, for undergrad. What I did was I majored in exercise science. Again, I really liked science. I liked math. Those were kind of my two strong suits. I was not very good at English. My wife kind of makes fun of me because I took remedial English, and she always wonders how I was able to be, successful. And so again, that's where I want you to realize, there's things in life that don't define us, that we can have potential there, even though, there's strengths and weaknesses, and we can accept that. So with exercise science, I love doing sports. I thought about maybe being a physical therapist. I thought about a lot of things. I love anything kind of to do with sports. So exercise science was a great major for me. Now, does everyone need to major in that or some kind of biology? No, the answer is that you don't. Find something that you're passionate about and just major in that. Now, there's certain classes you have to take to prepare for dental school and to take the DAT as well. So those can be added, but it doesn't mean that you have to major in those. So hopefully you understand that. Like, find what your passion is, because that's something that will help you. Like, I really liked physical therapy a lot. I loved learning a lot about how to take care of the body, take care of injuries. And so that's what I did. Does it have anything to do with dentistry? No, but I loved being able to do that. Also, one thing I do recommend is taking a business course. So I didn't take any business courses when I was in undergrad, and then dental school, they don't teach you much about it either. That's something I wish I would have done, because now I'm kind of playing catch up. Having my own business, there's a lot that I don't know and a lot that I'm figuring out. And there's a lot of failures that are going on because I didn't do that. So again, if that's something you're looking into, there's a lot of ways to go within dentistry as well, right? Do you want to own your own practice? Do you want to just work, a corporate office? Do you want to work for somebody? So again, that depends on what it is that you're looking to do. If you're looking to own your own practice or have a partner, business courses are going to be needed. It's going to be something that you'll have to focus on. And so definitely learning a lot from that, but make sure you start early. The earlier you start, the easier it is. But it doesn't mean that you can't catch up in the end. So this is Dr. Morgan. This was actually one of the dentists that spoke to us in that class that I took. And the reason why I show him is he was one of my first mentors. Like I said, I didn't have any family in dentistry. So I had to kind of find my own path. I had to find what I needed to do to get there. So I asked to shadow him one day after class, and he was all for it. He was actually the dentist of the football team, which is pretty cool. So I was like, oh, that's something that I'd be interested in, making night guards for football players or athletes, right? How can I make that part of my future? Because I love working with sports teams. So I went and shadowed him, and he was amazing. He was so willing to be open, answer any questions that I have. And it was him that was always saying, hey, be willing to give back. That's one of the reasons why I love doing these webinars, because so many times I didn't know what I needed to do. And I had to lean on these mentors to really find a path for me. If I didn't have these mentors, I would have been lost, right? I probably wouldn't even gotten into dental school, because I would have just been, running kind of wild, not knowing what direction to go in. One thing that he really showed me was, go shadow other professionals to really find out what it is. I know going into dentistry, you got to do a lot of shadowing hours. And so what I did was I went and shadowed an oral surgeon, which I loved. I thought it was amazing. I went and shadowed an endodontist. I shadowed them once. That was the only time I ever went back, or I never went back, actually. I just knew after that day, I was like, I don't want to be an endodontist. It was just immediately I knew that that's something I didn't want to do. And it was good to know that from the beginning, right? I did root canals for a while, but now I don't do them anymore because it's not what I was passionate about. So what you can really do is, as you kind of shadow, you'll be able to learn what it is you like, but ask lots of questions. Dr. Morgan, when I walked in, he had this amazing practice, right? He had tons of technology. There's so many things that I learned from him as opposed to what I knew when I was growing up. Growing up going to the dentist, it was just kind of this old school dental practice, just go get my cleanings. I was very comfortable. I would always, fall asleep in the chair. So I always had a very enjoyable experience. And maybe that's why dentistry is good for me. I still fall asleep in the chair every time I'm getting my cleaning, which is good. I think that means that you're comfortable. So really finding that mentor that's going to help you. I've had a lot of mentors in my life that have helped me get to where I am today, and I'm still finding them, right? Even when you're, near the top of your career, right? You're still going to have these guys who are going to help push you, because there's always going to be, whether that's someone that's better than you, or someone that has done something differently and been successful, learn from them. Try to learn from other people as much as you can. That way you're going to be able to really grow as fast as you can. So when I was graduating from BYU, I started doing my applications and got a couple interviews. And so my first interview was at Loma Linda here in California. So I was super excited about that. I knew I wanted to kind of come to California, so I was hopeful that one of these schools would take me. And I always felt like I was pretty comfortable talking with people. I could kind of take up any conversation. And so I wasn't that worried about the interview. Now, again, I hadn't had much interview practice. I hadn't done a lot of interviews. And so I kind of went in without being prepared and felt like I wasn't very concerned. So had a great day at Loma Linda. They have an amazing place, amazing school. When I was there, everything was like brand new. It was so cool. So I was super excited about it. I was like, man, this is where I want to go. And then the last thing they do is an interview with one of the faculty. So you're sitting there for a while until they call your name. So finally call my name and we go in a room. And so I was a little nervous, but excited. And, so he starts talking about who I am, what I'm doing, why I want to go in dentistry. And then, he asked me, okay, well, what are some of your strengths, right? And so I talk about that. And then he goes, well, what are some of your weaknesses? And that was where like my mind went blank. Like I had never thought about that. And I was like, oh man, like, I don't know. Like I told him, I just straight up, I didn't know. And they sat there for a couple of minutes trying to think. And he's like, oh, well, don't worry about it. Like, you don't need to answer that. And, I just couldn't come up with a really good answer. And then, next thing he asked, well, what are some real hardships that you've had in your life? And so again, I wasn't prepared for these questions. I didn't have a really good answer that I could really go to for those. So it really showed kind of the lack of confidence in myself. And I think that I did a really poor job. Let you know, I didn't get into Loma Linda. I really feel like I've really failed that interview because I just wasn't prepared for that aspect of it. And with dentistry, you've got to really be a people person. Think about, when you get new patients, you're going to be kind of interviewing your patients or asking them questions or building relationships, right? When you're hiring staff, you've got to interview them. You've got to be quick to kind of figure out, are they going to be a good fit in your office? And so, interviewing skills as well as being the interview, going to interviews, you got to be really good at. So a couple of questions that I recommend you kind of think about in your mind is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and be real about it. Don't feel like your weakness has to be also your strength, right? I think it's funny whenever your strength is like, well, my weakness is I'm too hardworking, and it's like, okay, I don't know if that's what everyone answers is, but really find what that weakness is. These interviews, they want you to be real. They want to understand who you are, right? They don't want this fake answer that everyone's going to give that they want. They want to understand, really understand kind of who you are. So be real in that. And I think you'll go along with that. Another thing is share your passion. Really find out kind of what it is that you like for why you're going into dentistry, right? I think that everyone has a different reason. It doesn't have to be the same for everyone. And again, being real about that. Also understand hardships of your life. Okay, understand where you've come from. Evaluate kind of what's brought you to this point. If you've had failures, why have you had failures? So share all that with them. They want to hear that. So it's there's so many questions that they still could bring up, and that's the way that you want to do it. When I went to USC for the interview, they do things very differently. At USC, they do what's called problem-based learning. And so what they do is you're in a room full of other people who want to go there, and they bring up a situation, and all you do is you talk about that situation. And so you really got to, go out of your comfort zone and be able to talk about ideas. Whether those ideas are right or wrong, you don't know, but it's just about brainstorming and getting out there. And it was a different way of doing the interview process, but it also, kind of saw those who were kind of real and those who were kind of just throwing out, very, answers that they thought everyone wanted to hear. So again, be real and practice. Look up interview questions. I would say practice with somebody. If you have like a coach or something, it really can make a big difference for you. So I started dental school in 2012. I was very excited when I found out that I had gotten in. Again, I was a fourth generation USC grad. So my dad and my grandpa both went to med school there. And then my great grandpa was actually an oral surgeon, which I actually found out after I was in dental school. And so he was one of the first oral surgeons to graduate from USC. So when you're looking at dental schools, there's so many around the country that you can go to, and they all do things a little bit differently. What you want to find out is what is the right dental school for you. Okay, so I already told you a little bit about USC. They do something called PBL, problem-based learning. And what that means is that it's not so much just structured, go in, listen to the professor speak, and you take notes. The problem-based learning is where you're in a room with other students and there's a facilitator, but all the facilitator does is really read the situation. So there's usually something going on with the patient. They give you kind of the problems, they give you numbers, and you have to sit there and kind of evaluate what's going on and then figure out what it is you need to know to understand more about this case. It's all up to you kind of figuring that out. And then you go home and you research that and you come back together as a group. So each of you guys are trying to figure out the solution as opposed to the facility just teaching you everything. Now, why was that good for me? I'm one that's very hands-on learning. I have a hard time just reading a book and just having it take it in my mind, right? That's why I think I probably struggled a little bit when getting B pluses, right? Getting that A's was because for me, I needed more kind of hands-on work. And that's why I really like dentistry. At USC, we were in the clinic from day one, right? We were already starting prepping little blocks the first day we were in the dental school. So working with my hands was easier for me to learn than reading things in a book and looking at pictures. There's other schools that are more into research, right? And education, right? If they teach that, then a lot of times those are looking for people who are wanting to specialize. So look at the dental schools and figure out, what do they bring? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And do they fit alongside with the way you learn? One thing that I'd recommend is trying to figure out if you can get a hold of dental students, that go to each of the schools that you want to interview at and ask them questions. You can, there's different groups on Facebook. You can always try to get a hold of people through Facebook and message them, Instagram, and just ask questions. Figure out what they like, what they don't like. And that's going to help you kind of drive you in a direction that you want to go. Now, obviously it's, hard to get into dental school. And so you don't always have your choice of where you want to go. But it's good to understand that. And then when you go in, you can say, hey, the reason why I really like this school is for this reason, right? I love that you guys have a problem-based learning, and that is the way that I learn best in explaining that. So when you're able to show them that you've done kind of the homework, you've done your research, you see why you can be a benefit for the school. They're going to see that as the potential that you can bring to them. So really put in the homework before you go in there. So throughout this process, you're going to realize that you're going to have lots of trials. And it's how you take those trials really is going to depend on your future. So one thing that I can share with you is I actually failed my Part 1 boards the first time. And for me, that was really hard. I was embarrassed, right? Most people pass those. But again, I had to figure out what was the right learning process for me. Was it just reading a book? And it's not. So, why do I tell you this? Why do I tell that I failed Part 1 boards? I mean, it's kind of a big deal. Because at that moment, I could have taken it and I could have said, I'm not the smartest person at the school. My potential is not there because, I'm just not going to be a great dentist. I just can't. And what it did instead was it motivated me, because I said, hey, I'm not maybe the smartest person in this room, but what I can control is being the hardest worker in this room. And from that moment, I decided that I'm always going to be the hardest worker in the room, and that's what's going to make me successful. And so, I had to work hard, because then class started again. Usually they give you some time to really study for those boards, so you get time off. But I had to study and go to school, go back to the classes and things like that. And so, but I knew that I could put the effort in, and that I had to work harder. And so ever since that time, it just was kind of a transition. I was able to really change my mindset. And now I look and I say, hey, I'm going to be the hardest worker in the room. And it's really motivated me throughout my career, understanding that we're all going to fail at some point. That's okay, right? We don't have to take failure and just think that now we're done because of that. Many times the growth, the biggest growth that I've had is when I failed. So I'm grateful for those failures. I'm grateful for those opportunities that I had, because if I didn't, then I wouldn't be where I am today. Success is great, and we need to always acknowledge that. But a lot of times success is not always what pushes us to really become stronger. And so, when you have a failure, I want you to take it and evaluate it, understand, how this happened and where can I become better and what can I do? So like I said, for me, it was about being the hardest worker in the room, and that's motivated me to where I am today. So if there's anything that I want you to take out of this presentation, this is the most important thing. Okay, so I want you to remember that. And it's about building relationships. So one of the big reasons why I went into dentistry was because I wanted to have and build relationships. I wanted these patients that were going to be with me for 20, 30 years, right? That I would watch their kids grow up, that I would be there through hard times and through the good times. I hear these stories from them, and I've seen it, right? I've seen patients come in and share with me very personal things that I'm grateful for, that they feel comfortable, and many times of them sharing experiences about how I've changed their lives. And those are the moments where why I love dentistry. So, but it all starts, from the beginning. And I want to share a couple experiences with you when I built certain relationships that have changed my career path. So what I want you to tell you is, don't be afraid to pick up a phone and make a phone call. Don't be afraid to go shake someone's hand and meet them for the first time, because you just never know, who's going to play an influence in your life and going to be able to help you in the future. Okay. So a couple of experiences that I want to share. So when I was an undergrad, I went to my cousin's wedding up in LA. And, at this point I was thinking about doing dental school now. And my uncle introduced me to one of his cousins. And so I was talking to him a little bit, and the topic came up that I was interested in going to dental school. And it turns out that he was a USC faculty member. And so at that moment, I, kind of talked to him about how USC was one of my top choices I wanted to go to. I talked to him about my family. But what I did was I also got his information. I said, hey, would you mind if I reached out, if I ever have any questions with the application process, to be able to get some feedback? He's like, 100%, no problem. So I got his contact information. As I was going down, I waited about a week, and then I messaged him and I asked if I could come, visit him. So I went up to see, his house. I went and he introduced me to a lot of the dental students that were there. And then the day that I had my interview, he actually showed up and came and said hello. And so, that was a moment when I really put effort into understanding him and building that relationship, that helped me as I went down the path to figure out what it is that I wanted. Another one was I was just graduated dental school. I was actually working down in San Diego. So I had like 5 different jobs. I couldn't never get anything consistent at these jobs. They weren't giving me much to do. I'd usually see maybe a kid or two, do a filling here or there. So I wasn't doing a lot of dentistry. I wasn't getting the kind of experience that I wanted to. One of my friends who lives in Colorado told me, he goes, hey, I know this dentist. He's got this second practice and they're looking to hire a new doctor. And so I said, hey, give me his contact information. And I cold called that doctor. And I said, hey, just graduated from dental school. I'm looking for a job. And so he recommended I come out. So I took my wife, we flew out there, probably a week later, and went and saw the practice. And it was a good opportunity. It was a second practice. They did a lot of Medicaid. So there was a lot of dentistry, right? High volume dentistry, which is what I really wanted to do right out of school. I wanted to do as much dentistry as I could to really get my hand skills up. The thing that was really nice about this practice was their office was a high cosmetic office, and it was right next door. So literally neighbors. So what I was able to do is work this practice. And right when I walked in, actually, a lot of the doctors had just left. So I became kind of that lead doctor in that office, 6 months out of school. And so from there, I had to really learn more of the business side of it, how to run an office, how to work with an office manager. Now the doctors were next door, but they put a lot of trust in me, and they kind of guided me in that, what to learn, how to fail, how to overcome those failures. And then I watched them do amazing cosmetic work. And that was one of the first times that I started looking into, cosmetics and seeing the potential and the excitement that it brought me. I wasn't able to do a lot of cosmetics at that point because, when you're at a Medicaid office, it's just the patients aren't there. But I was able to see kind of the work that they were able to do. So I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone and make that phone call. If I wouldn't have called them, right, I would have still been in San Diego, doing a filling here or there on the kid, as opposed to really improving my skills, working in a practice where I'm becoming an owner and figuring out the business side of it, how to deal with employees and the hiring and firing. That was huge for me, that I was able to learn that. And in 2 years, I really was able to get that understanding and really progress my career. So another time where, again, you've got to be confident in yourself, but don't be afraid to make a phone call, because you just never know what's going to happen from it. So finally, last one that I wanted to share was my partner. This is Dr. Lincoln Parker in this picture. I actually we grew up near each other, and I knew his dad very well. I knew that he had gone to dental school, and he was one that I actually called his dad, and I said, hey, can I get, Lincoln's number? I would like to call him about how to apply for dental school. And I called him, and he gave me some good information on the application process. So then next I was in dental school. And again, I heard that Dr. Parker, that Lincoln was starting his own practice here in Orange County. It was a startup, which means you start from the ground, from scratch. So, I heard he was doing amazing things, and I called him up again, cold called, and just said, hey, I wanted to come down and shadow you one day. He was all for it. Awesome guy, and came down and saw his practice. And at the end of that day, I thought to myself, this is the type of practice that I want to have in my career, right? I knew that there was a potential to be there. I just didn't know when I was going to get there. So kind of followed, kept in touch with him over the years, just watching him as he was able to really grow his practice. So then I was in Colorado, and I'd been there for 2 years, and I knew I wanted to come back to California. And so I had built a lot of relationships here in California. What I wanted was to come back and be an associate for someone. Again, I was still only, 2 years out of school. I wanted to really keep growing my career. And so I thought myself, I need to call Lincoln. I remember that was the practice that I wanted my career to be in. Those are the type of practice that I really want to be part of. So I called him up because I knew those were the type of dentists I wanted to be working with. And I just told him, hey, I'm looking to come back to California. I was wondering if you knew any dentists that are looking for an associate that could come and work their practice. And he responded that, hey, I'm actually looking for a partner. And so, I had to almost change my mindset, because I had only thought of, hey, I want to be an associate, right? I'm not ready to be a partner. And so we started talking about what our goals were, what the potential we saw with the practice. And, 6 months down the road, I bought into the practice and I moved to California, and kind of haven't been looking back. So, there's certain moments where I look in my life that have changed the projection of my career. And it all comes down to really these relationships that I have built, and that I haven't been scared to go and really do those hard things. Each of these relationships, I still keep in touch with all of them. All of those relationships, they've all been huge mentors to me, to allow me to be where I am. So again, focus on that. Focus on, finding those mentors, because they're the ones that are going to help you most in your career to reach your potential. So when I look at dentistry, I've really kind of figured out what it is I'm passionate about. I worked down in San Diego for a lot of different offices. They all do things differently. Every practice does things differently. A lot of dentists do things differently. Then I went to Colorado and I worked at a Medicaid office, which was a lot of dentistry. I worked real hard. And now I work, in this practice in Orange County, which I love. And what I'm again learning is, what am I passionate about? And that's when I really found that cosmetics was something that I love to do. I love working with patients and helping them build confidence through a smile. So one story that I want to share with you is this past week, I had a patient fly in from New York to get her veneers done by me. And so she told me at the end, we were all done. She's about to fly back to New York. And I said, hey, really appreciate you coming all the way out here and trusting us. And she told me that, in New York, you don't have to wear masks anymore. But she said she chose to wear a mask because she didn't want anyone to see her smile. She said that when she would eat, she would actually cover her mouth so that people wouldn't see her teeth. She said ever since that she came and saw me and we started this process, she now smiles so big because she wants everyone to see her teeth. She says, I feel so confident now with that smile. And that is what really drives me, because it allows me to really see the kind of change that I can have in someone's life and really make a difference. There's so many stories about people and, being not having confidence in themselves because of that. So, these are the kind of differences that you can make. And it doesn't just have to be cosmetics. All the time I see patients and they're very anxious because they've had bad experiences in the past with dentistry. Most people don't love dentists. You'll learn that in your career, right? They come in and they already have a bad taste for you even before meeting you. But it's those opportunities that you have to help them feel comfortable and help them find a solution for them. Whether that's, taking good care and giving them a great feeling, but having a good experience through it all. Those are really times that you can really change people's lives. And I've had people coming in that were crying before they even came into the office. And when they left that day, they just said, thank you for making me feel comfortable. And that's what I love about it. So I wanted to share a couple case here with you. I also want to tell you a little bit about my first experience. So when I started knowing that I wanted to get in cosmetics, my first case was actually my mother-in-law. She had never liked her smile. She has kind of a gummy smile. She has really big teeth. And so she always wanted to do veneers. We did, some Invisalign on her, but still the shape of her teeth weren't where we wanted them to be. So I thought this was great. This is, first patient. I can do these veneers. I know at USC, they teach you a lot about cosmetics and, what ideal is. And so what I did was I, spent so much time designing the perfect veneers, from the perfect ratio of width to height, perfect translucency for creating that natural look. And then just getting the right touches on it with a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, to make it look beautiful. And then with the shade, just, being very natural. And so the day came where I was going to try in the veneers, and I tried them in, and she was a bit underwhelmed, and she wasn't very excited. And I was kind of surprised because I had spent so much time building these perfect veneers, right? And when she told me, she goes, well, this wasn't exactly what I wanted. She was used to big teeth, so these seemed super small. And then she also wanted just super white teeth. She wanted a Hollywood smile. So what I realized, what I had failed her as a patient, because if I was to seat those veneers, she wouldn't be confident in that smile because it's not what she wanted. So I ended up making her all new veneers and giving her this nice, bright Hollywood smile that fit now her smile, right? The teeth were a little bit bigger because that's what she was used to. They were perfectly straight now. And they were nice, bright white that it gave her confidence in herself. And so what I realized was that communication was key. That every time, it's not always what I want, but really focusing on the goals of the patient. And those are where you're going to be able to get the result. The best result is when you understand where the patient is coming from. You understand the type of experience that patient is looking for. It's not always about us and what we want. And so that's really what I learned, luckily, from an early stage in my career. So this is one of my patients, one of my favorite patients that she actually came to see me from out of town as well. I talked to her about doing braces and Invisalign to fix that tooth, but that one tooth had always bothered her. And so we decided to do veneers. So this is kind of where we started. And these were the final veneers. It was awesome to see kind of her transition of her confidence. She's kind of a high profile person. She has a great career, works real hard, and just an amazing person. But you can see, you know, she was confident in herself, but she just had this thing about her smile that was holding her back. When we look at kind of that full smile, you can see, you know, what a difference it makes. You can see her face kind of pop and glow with now that confident smile that she has. And so it's exciting to kind of see these experiences with these patients and just be able to see how it changes their lives. So I wanted to share her story. This is a video that we made with her, and so I wanted to show it to you.
I think before I had veneers, if you had to ask me how I felt about my smile, I'd say, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was probably at about a 4. Even at my biggest effort, it just never truly conveyed how I was feeling on the inside. When I smile now, I feel like $1 million. The only regret is, why did it take me this long to do this? I feel amazing. From Dr. Hales to the entire team, this is the best experience I have ever had with any medical procedure. Every experience I have had pales in comparison to what I went through here. Take it from me, it is life-changing. The only thing you're going to regret is taking too long to make the decision. You absolutely need to do this.
So I really love these videos that we get to make with our patients, because it shows kind of their journey that they're on, and really the excitement that they have, and that smile at the end is, you know, it's always worth it every time. And what I want you to know is that you also are going to have a journey, right? As you begin this process of, you know, applying for dental school, whichever dental school you go to, and then what do you do after that? Everyone has a different path. And so find out what that path is for you, but really enjoy it, right? I think take each moment and try to really, you know, enjoy every moment of it, because it goes by fast, right? Like I said, I feel like it wasn't that long ago that I was in your shoes, that I was looking to apply for dental school and taking classes. And that was an exciting time in my life. And now I have different excitements, right? The birth of my new child coming up. I mean, I'm super excited about that. And there's just so many things now that sometimes I kind of want to rush through, right? I'm always thinking, oh, I can't wait to graduate dental school, because then I'll be, you know, able to work and do things like that. And now I'm working and I'm like, oh man, I just want to take more classes, CE courses, to just learn. Like, I wish I could soak it all up in. And so, you know, find joy in that journey, but also understand that, you know, there's a path for you, and it's different than your neighbor or other people. And so learn from others as much as you can, and then you'll be able to be great. So thank you for attending. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Again, I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come on and share kind of my experience and my journey. You know, there's, you know, things you can take from it, and things you can, you know, I obviously haven't done things perfectly, and that's okay, because, you know, I still take it one day at a time and figure out how to become better. But I love what I'm doing. It's something that you're not going to regret, for sure, because it's fun. And so hopefully you guys figure that out soon. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hales, for an insightful, informative presentation. and we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. And thank you everyone who joined us today on our live stream, and the post-session quiz will be accessible through our WebCeph website. Bye everyone.